The Battle of the Metaurus in 207 BCE was one of the most significant military engagements of the Second Punic War. The battle, which took place in northern Italy along the Metaurus River, resulted in the defeat and death of Hannibal's brother Hasdrubal Barca, and the destruction of Carthaginian reinforcements intended to support Hannibal's southern Italian campaign. This battle had significant strategic and military implications, but also carried enormous psychological weight, shattering Hannibal's hopes of strengthening his position in Italy and uniting with his brother. The outcome significantly altered the war's course, eventually leading to Hannibal's retreat and Rome's dominance in the Mediterranean. By 207 BCE, the Second Punic War had been ongoing for over a decade. Hannibal invaded Italy in 218 BCE and won a string of stunning victories, including the devastating battles of Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae. Following Cannae, several southern Italian cities and allies defected to the Carthaginian side, including Capua, the second largest city on the Italian peninsula. Despite his early battlefield victories, Hannibal had failed to strike a final decisive blow against Rome or capture the city itself. Despite being battered and suffering enormous losses, Rome refused to negotiate peace. Instead, it waged a war of attrition, capitalizing on its superior workforce and economic resources. Under the leadership of generals such as Quintus Fabius Maximus and Marcus Claudius Marcellus, Rome avoided confrontations with Hannibal, instead concentrating on recapturing lost allies containing Carthaginian forces in southern Italy and launching offensives in Spain and other regions. Hannibal's brothers, Hasdrubal Barca and Mago Barca, fought Roman commanders such as Publius and Gnaeus Scipio from Spain. Both Scipio brothers were killed in battle in 211 BCE, and it appeared that Carthage might regain control of the Iberian Peninsula. However, in 210 BCE, a young Roman general named Publius Cornelius Scipio, later known as Scipio Africanus, took command of Spain and quickly reversed Roman fortunes. By 208 BCE, he had conquered New Carthage and decisively defeated Hasdrubal in the Battle of Baecula. Although Hasdrubal escaped with part of his army, the battle disrupted Carthaginian plans in Spain, setting Hasdrubal's desperate march to Italy to join Hannibal. Hasdrubal's plan was simple but ambitious. He wanted to bring reinforcements, infantry, cavalry, and elephants from Spain, cross the Alps as Hannibal had done over a decade, and descend into Italy to join forces with his brother. The union of the two Carthaginian armies turned the tide of the war, renewing the threat to Rome and possibly resulting in a negotiated settlement. Hasdrubal's march was a logistical feat unto itself. He crossed the Alps with his army, though the journey was difficult and slow. By early 207 BCE, he had reached the Po Valley in northern Italy, recruiting Gallic allies and gathering supplies. The Roman Senate, fully aware of Hasdrubal's threat, reacted quickly. In 207 BCE, two consuls were elected, Marcus Livius Salinator and Gaius Claudius Nero. Livius was tasked with guarding the northern frontier against Hasdrubal, while Nero remained in the south to keep Hannibal in the region of Bruttium. At this point, Rome was fighting on two fronts against two experienced Carthaginian generals. Hannibal, who remained stationed in southern Italy, eagerly awaited his brother's word. Communication between the two brothers was challenging due to the great distances, the presence of Roman armies, and the risk of interception. Hasdrubal attempted to send messengers to inform Hannibal of his location and planned movements, but Roman patrols intercepted them. One intercepted letter revealed Hasdrubal's location and plans to join Hannibal in Umbria or along the Adriatic coast. After learning of Hasdrubal's whereabouts and intentions, Nero made a bold and risky decision. Leaving a portion of his army to continue monitoring Hannibal, he chose approximately 7,000 elite soldiers and led a forced march north to join Livius in confronting Hasdrubal. This was an extraordinary maneuver, Nero marched his troops over 250 miles in just under a week through hostile territory and rugged terrain without Hannibal being aware of his departure. The secrecy surrounding this maneuver was critical, as Hannibal could have used the opportunity to attack the weakened Roman forces remaining in the south. When Nero arrived at Livius's camp near the Metaurus River in northern Italy, he took great care to conceal his presence. The Roman camps were cleverly combined to avoid alerting Hasdrubal to the reinforcements. The plan was to force a battle before Hasdrubal could ally with Hannibal or flee. Realizing that he was up against a stronger Roman force than expected, Hasdrubal attempted to disengage and retreat eastward in search of a better Metaurus River crossing or reconnecting with Gallic allies. However, he encountered rugged terrain, a swollen river due to recent rains, and aggressive Roman pursuit. Hasdrubal prepared for battle after realizing he couldn't escape. The battle took place near modern-day Fossombrone in the Marche region of Italy. Hasdrubal positioned his forces with his Gallic infantry on the left, Spanish troops in the center, and African infantry and elephants to the right. His army numbered around 30,000 men and was made up of battle-hardened Iberians, Gauls, Numidians, and war elephants. The Roman forces, which were slightly larger, were organized with Livius commanding the left wing, Nero on the right, and a third general, possibly the praetor Lucius Porcius Licinus, commanding the center. The Roman legions were deployed in their traditional three-line formation, with cavalry on the flanks. The battle began with a fierce engagement between Livius's left wing and Hasdrubal's right, during which Carthaginian elephants and African infantry launched a powerful assault. The elephants caused some confusion among the Roman ranks, but disciplined formations and the use of light infantry and missile troops mitigated their impact. Meanwhile, Nero's right wing confronted the Gauls on Hasdrubal's left. The Gauls were renowned for their ferocity, but lacked the organization and cohesion of the Spanish troops in the center. Hasdrubal's center, which was primarily comprised of Iberian veterans, held firm and even began pushing back portions of the Roman line. At this critical juncture, Nero made another bold move. Recognizing that the enemy center was overextended and vulnerable, he redeployed a portion of his right wing to strengthen the Roman center. This risky lateral movement during the heat of battle, without disrupting the Roman line, enabled the Romans to break the Carthaginian center. As Roman pressure increased, Hasdrubal's army began to disintegrate. The Gauls fled, the Spanish were surrounded, and the African units were separated. Hasdrubal refused to surrender despite knowing the battle was lost. He charged into a Roman formation and was killed in battle. The battle ended with a complete Roman victory. Hasdrubal's army was destroyed, with up to 5,000 Carthaginian soldiers killed and thousands more captured. The remaining survivors fled or were pursued in the days after the battle. The most dramatic moment occurred when Hasdrubal's severed head was thrown into Hannibal's camp in the south in an attempt to demoralize the Carthaginian general and signal the end of his brother's army. The Battle of Metaurus had far-reaching strategic consequences. Hannibal, who had waited over a decade for reinforcements, realized that the tide of war had shifted irreversibly. With Hasdrubal dead and his army destroyed, Hannibal was left alone in southern Italy, surrounded by increasingly powerful Roman forces. He continued to operate in Italy for several years, but his offensive capabilities had vanished. From this point forward, he fought a defensive war, and the dream of Carthaginian dominance over Italy faded. Rome, on the other hand, emerged energized. The victory at Metaurus ended the Republic's greatest existential threat since Cannae. It also confirmed the effectiveness of its new military strategy, which prioritizes superior logistics, commander coordination, and calculated risks over reckless offensives. Nero's quick march and tactical maneuvering were widely praised, and he and Livius received triumphs in Rome. The battle provided a morale boost that cannot be overstated. The Roman Senate used the victory to strengthen political unity, rally dissenting allies, and assert dominance throughout Italy. Cities and regions that had defected to Hannibal began to reconsider their decisions. Carthage's influence in Italy gradually waned, and attention shifted to theaters in Spain and eventually North Africa. In many ways, the Battle of the Metaurus mirrored the Battle of Cannae. If Cannae represented the low point in Roman military history, Metaurus represented its resurgence. It validated the Roman system's resilience and adaptability. Despite losing many soldiers, experiencing political upheaval, and facing one of history's greatest generals, Rome persevered and ultimately triumphed. Metaurus marked the beginning of the end of Carthage's Italian campaign in the context of the Second Punic War. While Hannibal was technically undefeated in Italy, he had lost the ability to influence the war's outcome. Scipio Africanus's campaigns in Spain would soon bring complete Roman control over the Iberian Peninsula, and by 204 BCE, Rome would have moved the war to Africa itself. The climactic Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, in which Hannibal was finally defeated, would have been impossible if the events at the Metaurus had not already begun. In conclusion, the Battle of Metaurus was more than just a Roman victory. It was a watershed moment in the Second Punic War. It demonstrated the strategic brilliance of Roman generals, the discipline of Roman troops, and the determination of the Roman Republic. It ended Hannibal's dream of reinforcements, killed his brother and co-strategist, and set off a shift in the war's momentum, eventually leading to Carthage's defeat. The victory at the Metaurus represented Rome's rebirth from the ashes of Cannae and its emergence as the dominant power in the ancient Mediterranean